We're going to work now on creating a surface design for our painted page. What I've done is I've taken the larger sheet and I've made it smaller to make it easier to work on. And I'm going to be showing you some low-tech strategies for adding a lot of surface design elements to the page to make it much more interesting when you ultimately make your collage. We're going to be using first the same sheets of embossed wallpaper that we used before, but we're going to be using them in a different way. In the earlier version of texturizing, what I did was I added the gesso to the paper, and then I impressed the design into the page. We're going to work it in a different way, but we are going to go back to gesso first. And what I'm going to do is just pour out a little bit on my palette. I don't need much for this step. And I'm going to use these as stamps. I'm going to cover my brush lightly. I really do not want much gesso on this. And I'm going to just make sure that I cover the surface evenly. I do not want any blotchy paint pooling up inside the texture. And then I'm going to impress it on here. In this case, I am going to use my hand and not a brayer because I don't really want anything that looks too rigid or standard. I want this to be very random. And you can see that we've begun to create some different texture. Now, you certainly can use white paint, but again, I'm a fan of gesso, and I use it wherever I can. And I like that it picks up the white gesso that shows through our original wash. I'm going to use a couple other of these just to get a little bit of a different effect. And one of the things you'll see is mostly I'm swiping. Again, if you press down with your finger, you're just going to get a little finger-sized indentation. And I'm going to do one more hit. Need more gesso than I thought. And I'm going to do it with this sheet. Again, I told you earlier, this is one of my favorite sheets. If you add too much, you can see how white it is. Just spread it around before you apply it to the page. And when I apply this, you're going to see these really nice dots just appear. Now, I've done it with gesso, but I'm going to do the same thing with acrylic paint. I'm going to go always with a contrasting color because I want it to show up on the washes. So I'm going to use, in this case, I'm going to use this sort of softer gray. It's also a little iridescent, so you're going to get a little bit of sheen. And I'm just going to put a little bit out. I'm going to get another brush. And I am going to make sure there's not too much on my brush. And I'm going to rub it lightly on one of these sheets. And then I'm going to press down. This is subtle, which is the way I want it, because I'm going to be adding a lot to this page, and I don't want anything overpowering. And I'm going to do this one more time, because I really do want a finished sheet. I'm going to use one other color. This is burnt orange, which is going to have a great contrast from the lighter colors here. Get a new brush. And once again, make sure I don't go too heavy. And let's use this one and get just a little bit more. You can be completely random. You don't have to worry about the placement at all. You just want to get color, and you want to get it in a way that adds a lot of dimension and texture to your piece. We're going to put this aside, and I'm going to show you another low-tech strategy for adding these surface design elements to your paper. And that's with a book board. Now, I use this for making books, so I have a lot of this around, and I have these little pieces, and I like to use all the pieces of extra stuff I have in my studio. But you can use anything. You can use cardboard, you can use the credit cards that you get in the mail, you really can use any surface. And I'm just going to be using the edge to create different lines in different directions on this page. I'm going to start, and I'm actually going to not even use a brush for this one. I'm going to just take this and I'm going to rub it into the paint that I already have here. And I'm going to press it on the palette a few times because I do not want a line that looks like that. I want, again, a more subtle line. And that was so little paint, it's just a little bit too subtle for me. So I'm going to go back. And I'm just going to mix it up like that. Maybe make a grid. Again, you do not need to worry at all about the placement. You just want to get color. But I want a lot more contrast than that, because I have plenty of that orange, so I'm going to now add a different color. I'm going to go back to one of my favorites, Payne's Gray, and I'm going to do the same thing. And maybe I'm going to cross some of the burnt orange. Maybe I'll place it in sections that don't have any color at all yet. And as I do this, I can see that my page is filling up, and I'm not left with too much blank space. What I don't want is too much area that looks like that. I want there to be a design element pretty much in every section. You can make any shape you like with this. And again, you can use any tools that you want to do this. If you want to create circles on your page, you can use the roll of the paper towel. Any kind of design element at all, but I love using these excess pieces from my studio.